For much of my life, starting from when I was a preteen, a new year meant the start of a new diet. I'll suddenly eat only the most healthy and nutritious food. I'll exercise every day. I'll suddenly drop multiple pounds, along with 10 other routines and rules that'll somehow adapt as instant habits. And my life will finally be perfect. New year, new me. Only to have it all crumble because it was never sustainable to begin with, and as a result, I descend into a spiral of self-hate, shame, and guilt, and the cycle repeats. Well, as I've gotten older, I've done a lot of self-work and maybe have gotten slightly wiser, and I've realized that just because the calendar flips to a new year or a new month, that doesn't mean everything will magically change. That being said, there is still something about the new year that I love. I think it's the possibility of new beginnings and reflecting on the lessons and wins of the previous year. It's a time to take stock of where you are and how far you've come. And so I've sort of transitioned on focusing on everything that's wrong with me and what I need to fix, to instead reflecting on what I've learned about myself. So as I approach New Year's in this manner, it allows me to go forward into the new year armed with self-awareness, self-love, builds me up instead of tearing me down. It is definitely more sustainable. So here we are, a new year. Thank goodness. 2024 was a year, and if that sounds questionable, that's with good reason. It was probably one of the most challenging years of my life. However, the ahas that I have experienced this year have changed my life in significant and constructive ways. So if I think back to 2024, there were two main lessons. Lesson number one, mental health, mental health, mental health. You know, as a society, we've made great strides in recognizing the importance of mental health. This isn't the 1990s that I came of age in, thank God. In my adult life, I've made a priority of supporting my mental health, and when I'm in my groove, I prioritize my mental health needs. But do I actually do what it takes to support my mental health when the going gets tough, when I need it the most? A little backstory here. My husband was diagnosed with his first cancer in early 2023. And to say it was a shock is an understatement. He was a very healthy, strong, and active person. His treatment plan was to undergo surgery. And obviously, his life as he knew it had changed. He was going through some major existential shifts. Turns out, my way of coping with this incredibly challenging time was to not cope at all. I numbed out. I threw myself into my work, I distanced myself, and I drank heavily. All I wanted to do was escape and forget this seemingly impossible reality. Eventually, though, we came through it. He healed from his surgery, and we thought that we were through the worst of it, and we moved on with our lives. Then, in January 2024, we received some more unexpected news. My husband was diagnosed with a second cancer, unrelated from the first. And this time he would need radiation and/or chemotherapy and surgery. So just when we thought that we were over the worst year of our lives and we could move on, we were back into the thick of it all over again. It was at this time that I came to a very glaring realization that I could not endure this ordeal if I handled the second round in the same way I had handled the first. I needed to be better. I needed to face uncertainty. I needed to feel my feelings, and I needed to be a supportive and loving partner. And so to do that, I made the decision to give up alcohol, which was a crutch that I had relied on for way too long, long before the cancer. And it was a crutch that I used to cope with anxiety, which is pretty funny when you think about it, because alcohol is like adding gasoline to anxiety. But here I was going into the battle of his life, and I needed to be ready. And even though I felt like I had little choice, I knew deep down that quitting was my only option, because it could not be nearly as bad as the anguish that I would likely face if I didn't quit. And so I quit. The first 2 months were the hardest. I relied heavily on a quitting app called Reframe that I would highly recommend. Not sponsored. The scientific information on the effects of alcohol on the mind and body was very motivating, and the online community was especially helpful. But I think ultimately, as my husband underwent chemo and faced the daily realities of cancer treatment, my why was front and center and very apparent. Having a very clear why made it a lot easier to stay the course. If you are sober or have dabbled in sobriety, perhaps you're currently doing dry January, you will probably know that there are many reasons to quit, and I'm not going to go into it all in this video. If you are interested in hearing more about my personal sobriety journey, let me know in the comments. Maybe I'll make a video about it one day. I don't even like the word sobriety. It sounds so teetotaler, but I'm cool. Anyways, I have to say that the thing I've gained the most from sobriety has been a level of mental clarity. Some days I cannot believe how incredible it feels. It almost feels like a superpower. I feel like I can handle anything life throws at me. And when you're going through the weeds, this is so critical. So, long story short, I'm going through the most challenging time of my life, but my mental health game is on point. It's stronger than it's ever been, and I cannot help but attribute this to living without alcohol. All right, lesson number 2. The magic of going with the flow. So most of my life, I've been an uber planner. I'm a teacher. Planning is a big part of my job. I love planning. Planning has also extended to pretty much all aspects of my life. And I've prided myself on being a goal-oriented person that makes a plan and executes it with efficiency. However, I've also come to realize that my heavy dependence on planning is essentially an anxiety response. You know, to give yourself that feeling of control in a chaotic world. While needing to have a plan adds a sense of security, it also adds a rigidity and lack of flexibility that can be a detriment. Fast forward to 2024 with my husband's cancer diagnosis, my desire and natural propensity to plan, which has always in my mind made my life easier, actually became a big hindrance. What I didn't realize in the early days was how very unpredictable the cancer treatment journey would be. In the beginning, you don't know what's going on for what seems like an eternity. Navigating the healthcare system can be very confusing, and you feel left in the dark for much of the time. You don't know what the treatment will be, when it will start, how long it will last. You may be given some vague estimates, but you don't really have any clear answers until what seems like the very last minute. And then even then, everything is subject to change based on your particular circumstances, your particular type of cancer, how advanced it is, your other comorbidities, how you respond to various medications and treatments. The list goes on. And yeah, if you or a loved one has never gone through the cancer journey before, you don't even know what you don't know. It's all very unsettling and uncertain, and it is a major learning curve on a subject that you never wanted to know anything about. And so let's just say for a planner who likes to know what's going on, it felt almost paralyzing to me. My whole life felt like it was on pause and that my husband and I were at the mercy of this disease. You know, it's almost comical to think back at how naive I was in the beginning. For example, as a teacher, I know when all my vacations will be a year or two in advance. So naturally, I had already had all of these vacations planned before the diagnosis. And I just assumed everything would neatly fit into the calendar and the cancer treatment would just be a minor inconvenience that we would work around. And, you know, maybe I was just trying to be optimistic. But essentially, after having to cancel 3 trips and several other plans, I finally came to terms with the fact that some aspects of my life were just simply out of my control. And the less I resisted it, the easier it would be. With that realization, a major, albeit gradual, shift took place in my life. I let go of any long-term planning. It seemed so foreign to me to not know what I was doing from week to week or month to month, or what I was doing in 6 months' time. But I really didn't have a choice because this situation was completely out of my control, no matter how desperately I wanted it not to be. Ultimately, I had to go with the flow and have faith that the universe had my back. Once I eventually leaned into it, it was actually surprisingly very freeing. And this go with the flow approach has actually translated to other aspects of my life. As a result, I feel like my baseline stress and anxiety level is almost negligible, which is fantastic. It's as if I no longer get hung up on trivial things that don't matter in the grand scheme of things. I've realized that somehow everything will work itself out, or at least that's what I keep telling myself. So yeah, I mean, I can't change my life circumstances, but I can change my approach and attitude. And I've managed to do that by prioritizing my mental health and releasing control. It has not been an easy route, and yet gradually, bit by bit, I've gotten there and I've managed to gain a sense of calm and focus and clarity that has made all the difference. So we are not yet done with this cancer journey, and I've given up trying to predict when the cancer will no longer be taking up so much real estate in our lives. But here's the thing, and this is the major thing. Despite everything, I'm okay. I actually feel pretty good, which is almost confusing. Like, am I allowed to feel this okay considering all the crap we've been going through? I don't know, but it's a bit of a relief. And I am ready to forge ahead into the new year with optimism and hope. So there it is. That's my story. That's what I've learned about myself this year. And I don't know if it's helpful or not, but I felt compelled to share. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments. And I will preface that, however, that to respect my husband's privacy, I won't be commenting any more than I already have on his cancer journey, only on my own experience of the situation as the wife of someone going through cancer. I am wishing you all the very best in 2025 and beyond. Thank you so much for watching and for your continued support. And cheers.
take terror.